Hello, I'm Hazel Butterworth,
And I'm Carmen Braga.
and this is the Inspiration Station for Self Awareness. Thanks for watching and being with us today. Today's episode is about the four aspects of self. We're going to be looking at the physical, the mental, emotional, and spiritual. Now, we're all very familiar with the physical because it is the visible part of us. It's that we see, what we hear. We have that very physical, tangible self. But the other three components are more invisible. And together, all four components are very interrelated and interconnected. And we want to explain a little bit about that today and how important it is to pay attention to the invisible you.
Yeah, it's really important. I mean, everything in life is all about balance, right? That's why we have the yin yang symbol with the darkness and the light. It's all about balance. And we tend to get out of balance in these four areas sometimes very easily. And I mean, I know I've been there many times. And it's about bringing these parts of yourself back into balance. Now, obviously, with the physical, we're dealing with things like food, water, nutrition, exercise, and most importantly, rest. Right? So, I mean, food, it's a given. I mean, we we just need it.
Some days we eat more healthily than others.
Yeah,
and that's
well.
okay. Right?
That's okay. And water, I'm really lucky actually because I've always loved water.
Mhm.
Even when I was a kid, I was never a pop drinker. I was a water drinker. And I know there's lots of people out there that don't like to drink water, and that's got to be pretty tough for them. But for me, I'm very lucky that way that I love my water, and I also love the nutrition aspect of things. I actually, I really enjoy. I love cooking, and I love experimenting with things, right? And
You do.
you and I are a little different that way. And I'm always concocting new
Yeah.
things, and I love experimenting with nutritious recipes and stuff.
Yeah.
I just have fun with that, right?
Yeah.
Um,
My husband was told once, if you've had 3 good meals, eat up the next day.
oh, really?
I'm not consistent.
There you go. Well, I'm pretty consistent when it comes to that. Yeah. And well, exercise, well, it's not my favorite thing to do, but I do love walking because I love being out in nature. So that's a godsend too for me. But and rest, we don't put enough emphasis, I don't think, on sleep and resting properly. And I know from experience, I've had lots of sleepless nights in my life, and it's really, really important. I mean, you just can't function properly when your head's all fuzzy all the time, right?
Yeah, I think rest is one of those things that people think if you're sitting still, you're being lazy, or if you go to bed early, like what's wrong? But we need our sleep. Our body is this fantastic machinery. It's intelligent, it's divine. It has so many systems that are functioning, and you cannot work them to full capacity 24/7. Our cycles are on the 24-hour clock, so each of our body is at its most optimum at a certain hour of the day. And within that 24 hours, we have to remember how many systems are physically working to keep this vehicle moving. It's the same as a car. You've got to put gas in it. You've got to look after it. You've got to keep the air in the tires. Otherwise, you're not going anywhere, right? You've got to maintain it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you don't have a vehicle. So think of the physical body as your vehicle. This is your vehicle to get you from A to B in this lifetime. Very important.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and in the dream world, the body actually represents you in daily physical life.
Mhm.
So it really is your vehicle, right?
Yeah.
It's very important to look at and look after that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. So now let's look at the invisible, some of the invisible.
Some of the
parts.
invisible. Remember, 3/4 of you, 3/4. So the first component we're going to look at is mental.
Mental. Yeah. Mental would be, to me, your thoughts. And this is something that I work with women with all the time. is how incredibly abusive we are with our thoughts towards ourselves and towards each other, actually. But it's just, I can't stress how important it is to pay attention to your thoughts, to listen to how you're talking to yourself and treating yourself on a daily basis. I think if you really pay attention and listen to that, you're going to be a little surprised. I know I was. I mean, I was terribly abusive to myself with how I talked to myself and my thoughts and stuff. And I had to do some work on that over the years. I've done a lot of work on myself, a lot of inner work, and cleared a lot of that stuff up. So it is possible to do.
It is. The thing with that too is, and you mentioned, is about being aware, and not just your thoughts in your head, but what you speak. And if you become aware and start listening to yourself, you'll begin to hear the words that you're speaking and thinking. And all of a sudden you'll start to realize, oh, I've said that 10 times today. How many times do you say, I can't? And it could be in different contexts. It could be, I can't believe it's sunny today. I can't believe I won $1 million. Oh, that'd be different. I can't.
I want that one.
I can't believe I was late again today. How many times do you say the phrase, I can't? And then when you go to do something and you want to believe in yourself, or you want to expand in your programming and in your beliefs, that is running 24/7. I can't. I can't. And people are oblivious. You want to make changes and you can't. You want to go somewhere, you can't. Because somewhere within you is that phrase that says, I can't do that. I can't do that. So if you listen very, very carefully to your thoughts and to the words that you speak, an example would be if you have a conversation with someone and they say, oh, sorry, I just missed that. What did you say? And ask them to repeat themselves. A lot of people can't, because we're not used to listening to ourselves. We don't always listen to other people.
That's true.
You know.
Sometimes you don't want to.
No, but listening to yourselves, is that something that you are actively doing? It's a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, and I found too, one of the things, well, maybe now's not a good time to bring that up because of COVID, but normally people go around at least twice a year saying, oh, it's cold and flu season. And they get a cold or a flu because they're convinced that that's what you have to have in the fall and in the spring.
Yeah.
And we actually program ourselves this way. And you don't have to do that. You don't have to have a cold or a flu at a certain time of year. It's just how it's your belief systems and how you're programming yourself.
The one phrase now, and this is where sometimes you can feel it's tricky. It's not tricky, but it's right now the one phrase that everyone is promoting and protesting, I can't breathe.
Yes.
How many times a day are people saying, I can't breathe? And your body hears it. Your mind takes that in, and that becomes one of those little phrases that runs 24/7. I can't breathe. And that's the very nature of the COVID is affecting the breathing. So that's just an awareness for you. I'm not saying to do anything or not to do anything, but it's just that when you start to hear phrases, if you keep repeating those phrases, they become mantras. They do become mantras.
Well, we're energy beings, right? So, I mean, thoughts are energy, words are energy, and we're projecting that on ourselves and to each other. And that's, I mean, I get it that people are trying to they think that they're doing the right thing by getting that message out, and I understand where they're coming from, but the words that they're using, oh my gosh, this can actually end up doing a lot more harm than good. And on such a huge global
on a huge
level.
scale, it is. And people don't realize this is where ego isn't a topic for today, but this is where ego is very clever in this of disguising things. And we think we're doing something really good, but really we don't realize the impact of the words that we're speaking. Speaking of which, here is an awesome book. If you're not familiar with it, why is it so awesome?
Dr. Emoto, he was a Japanese scientist, and he proved, scientifically proved, the effects that our thoughts and our words have on water. Now, when you consider that our bodies are 70% water, this makes a big difference. How you're talking to yourself makes a huge difference, and your body is responding and reacting to that, right? Yeah. So
this is one of my favorites. Our book is so
falling apart.
This is one of my favorites.
Yes.
It's what Carmen just said when you're talking to people. So the top one, now to show you here, it's really pretty. And the top one, it says, let's do it, let's work together. But the bottom one is when you tell people, do it. You know, you get that feeling inside of you when someone speaks to you and you go, oh, and you get that shudder. Imagine these crystals inside of you. Which would you prefer? Right? Our body is 80% water. And we know our words are impacting those beautiful crystals in our body.
Yeah. It's huge. It really is. Because when you're talking to you, so you think about your self-talk. I mean, how many I know, I've done it, I know lots of women that do it. We look in the mirror and we think, ugh, geez, you ever look fat today? Man, you know, you're so stupid. Why did you do that? And we give ourselves hell all the time. And your body, the water in your body is constricting. It's going, ugh, and it turns into that yuckiness there. And then we wonder why we're getting sick. We're getting sick because we're quite literally making ourselves sick with our talk, with our thoughts. And oh my gosh, we have to clean this up.
We do.
We really do. And get on a different path here, because it is quite literally making people sick worldwide.
Okay. Hello, I'm Hazel Butterworth, and this is Carmen Braga, and we're the co-founders of Healing Heart Center here in Sherwood Park, Alberta.
And Hazel and I both offer one-to-one coaching and group coaching as well. If you want to, you can go on our website and book a free discovery session with either myself or Hazel. Our website is www.healingheartscenter.ca.
So let's move on to the next aspect of ourselves.
All right. So that would be the emotional.
The emotional. What is it about the emotional? What is the emotional aspect of you? The emotional part is your feelings. We interpret emotions as feelings. Emotions, all this invisible part of us, really, it's invisible because the energy is there. We don't see it. We don't see our thoughts. We only hear our interpretations of our thoughts. We hear them in the physical sense when we hear that voice in our head. We don't see our emotions. We only see the effects of our emotions. So it's kind of like the wind. We don't see the wind, but we see the effects of the wind. That's the same impact it's having on our physical body, our thoughts and our emotions. We only see them when they become physical reactions, physical responses, or the physical feelings that we have.
Right? Yep. Well, and we've got what we call the map of consciousness, which I'll show you here. Everybody can see that. And at the very bottom is shame and guilt. Now you look at like everything, we are, like I said before, we're energy beings, right? We have a frequency. Everything has a frequency. And the frequency of guilt and shame are at the very lowest. And I know, well, I know I was there, and I know a lot of people that are. We carry so much of this within ourselves, especially the guilt. The guilt is a huge thing where people feel guilty for so many different reasons. And when we keep ourselves in that state, we're pulling ourselves down. We're in such a low vibrating frequency. And I used to live quite literally in that low vibrating frequency for the first part of my life. I didn't know any different. Actually, my family was like that, and my friends, everybody I attracted was on that frequency. It wasn't until I started working on myself and doing my inner work that I started to raise my frequency. And then I started attracting people on a different frequency, on a higher frequency to myself, that were happier, more joyful, lighter, you know, and it changed everything in my life to get out of that low frequency. It was
It's
really
a
big.
drudgery. It's a heavy. Think of it as heavy sludge, in the sense that your emotions become the chemistry in your body. So those frequencies that Carmen's talking about, love and optimism and being up there, 200 is that changing point. Anything below that sort of 200, if you stay in that frequency, that's when we are at ease. And your organs, every body part has its own vibrational frequency. And think of it as a radio station that's tuned in. When it's on its optimal, then you get clear reception and everything's working fine. But if it's not on the optimal frequency, then quite the station has static and we don't have that clarity. It's the same with our emotions. If we can reduce and dissolve and eliminate, and mostly through forgiveness, those emotions that are toxic within us, then we can create, remember the crystals, we can create this beautiful pristine clear water, and that represents our emotions. If you think of emotions as water, when they're flowing and everything is fine, it's nice and clear. But when they become stagnant, just like a river that becomes a pond and stagnant, that's your toxicity right there. And that just festers. We all know when we have anger, and we use those phrases, that worry eats away at you, anger eats away at you, right? We know, we feel that anger in our stomach. So we know the physical impact when we are aware of those emotions, but we just haven't quite realized just how that toxicity and those frequencies and vibrations are actually impacting our physical body. You can think in terms of, because we talk about this linear frequency, the higher the frequency, the lower frequency. And I've had students and clients that say, well, I want to be 400 and above. And they try and maintain that. That's not healthy. We're neither up in the top all the time or in the bottom. As we live life, it's not to say we'll never get angry. But when anger shows up, we have learned how to process, how to deal with that, so that it doesn't stay in our physical body and impact us in that way. So we both have techniques and skills that we can help you to dissolve your emotions in there. So think in terms of a graph, right? We go up, we have a high, then someone bursts your bubble. And we come down.
Oh, that never happens.
We feel excited and we're happy and everything is wonderful. And then the next thing, we meet somebody who's having a really tough time, and we tend to come down, 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 and be in that sort of pain and unhappiness, because we tend to match each other's frequencies. If you're super, super happy and you meet someone who's super, super sad, chances are you're going to downtone that, because if I'm super, super happy and you're super, super sad, you want to meet people with compassion. So we tend to lower ours, and that generally happens. But you can, in the physical sense, and you can find that common ground and be compassionate and understanding. But within yourself, you can maintain your own frequency. And so inside, you're still happy because that's who you are. But in the moment of conversation, yes, you can change that, and you can have a conversation on many different frequencies, but it doesn't have to affect your own frequency.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Well, and to me that leads us into our fourth invisible part of ourselves, which is the spiritual, right? That's our conscious awareness, our understanding, our compassion, the deepest part of ourself, the knowing, right? And when it is possible, Eckhart Tolle talks about this quite a bit, actually. It's possible to be engaged in a conversation with someone who is going through something, that's deep or heavy, but you can be there for them, but also step out of the emotional attachment of it, right? And we are what I call empathic beings, right? We feel the energy of other people. Have you ever come home and your spouse is in a bad mood? You pick that up immediately, right? You can feel that energy. And
you don't have to be in that
same place.
No.
And that's what happens. That's what the ego wants to do, is the ego always wants to engage with the other ego. But instead of engaging with your ego, you step back out of that and you become consciously aware of who you are, where you are, and stand in your presence and your awareness. And you can actually help people a lot better from that perspective than you would if you sink yourself into that
and join them on the same level
that they're going through at the same time. Right?
Yeah. When you, like, from the understanding, and it's compassion. You can be compassionate with somebody and understand where they are at, because we know we've been there too, so we understand that. But in that moment, as Carmen's saying, you don't have to come match that level and have the ego conversation. You can still stay in your soul self and stay from that place of compassion and understanding. And I think that's a component, compassion and understanding, that really a lot of people maybe haven't been taught so much. It's not sympathy.
No.
Right? I'm not trying to, it's empathy, right? And we all have that empath ability to sense and feel what someone else is sensing and feeling. That's part of our aliveness. And so when we approach that, and when all we need to do is to just recognize this person is having a bad day. And that happened to me. My husband, this was years ago, he came home and that very same thing. So he came home and he was in a bad, had a tough day, and I reacted, and then he reacted and I reacted, and all of a sudden I had that conversation. Well, where did that come from? Because I was fine until you walked through the door.
Yeah.
And so
he burst your bubble.
He burst my bubble, he did. But it took that for me to realize. So the next time it happened, and since then, right? So, and it's not just him, but anyone who's had a bad day or who comes to you and says that, just pause. Just recognize where you're at. I'm good. I'm happy. And then you can respond. I'm sorry you've had a bad day. I'm sorry, I'm sorry is a powerful word, but I'm sorry you're feeling, I'm sorry you've had a bad day. Because it's not nice if anyone's had a bad day, and we want to recognize and acknowledge that. But we don't have to get in that same frequency. We don't have to be in the anger with them.
Yeah.
We just have to understand about that.
Yeah. Well, and I've been practicing and playing with this for some time now. And it's really, like, to me, it's an experiment. And like, I've had the same thing. I mean, I think all of us have. You come home, your spouse is in a bad mood, you pick it up immediately. And I love being the observer and watching myself and my ego want to engage. And I've actually been having kind of a conversation sometimes where I'm going, okay, well, I can see that my ego wants to engage with his ego and really cause a ruckus here.
You just like to argue sometimes.
Well, sometimes I do, yes. Well, because my ego says I'm right.
And ego's right.
Exactly. But in that moment, I have choice. So I can choose to engage in the argument, or I can choose to step back and go, okay, you know what, recognize that, like you said, I mean, yes, I'm sorry that you're having a bad day, but you're not going to add fuel to that fire. And you step back and you don't engage in that. And it makes a huge difference. Everything just goes away a lot
Maybe they
faster.
just need to vent and express it, and then they're okay because they've had an opportunity to express it. So sometimes, it might be you say hello to someone and they bite at you, and it's like, where did that come from? It just shows where they're at this moment. And at this moment, they're either struggling with an emotion or they're struggling with something that happened. It just is where they are. And for us, it's to be compassionate and understand, but to give that space. We all want to be heard. We all want the ability to express ourselves. And that's part of what this is when you come to understand that 3/4 of you, 3 aspects of you are invisible, it makes a difference. Hello, I'm Hazel Butterworth, and this is Carmen Braga, and we're the co-founders of Healing Heart Center. We're the hosts of the Inspiration Station for Self-Awareness.
And you are watching TVU, And you can find us on the Health and Wellness channel. We're streaming live and on demand.
Right?
Absolutely.
So let's just take a moment now, and I'd like to just give you this little example here. The 4 aspects of you are like the 4 legs on a table. We need to have all 4 of them. They all need to be balanced for this to be a table. That table is you. If we take away one of those legs, if we don't nurture it, if we cut ourselves short and don't pay attention, then we get this wobbly table. We're out of balance. It's a simple analogy to remember, but it is a good one because it's so important to take care of physical,
mental,
emotional,
and spiritual.
Right? Because they all interact, they all interrelate, and together they create your wellness, your health and wellness.
Well, and it is that body, mind, soul awareness, right? And becoming aware of all of these aspects of yourself, and how intrinsic they are to our nature and to being healthy and happy.
Yeah. So your physical body, your vehicle that gets you around, it's the tangible part of you. The mental, your thoughts, what you say, what you speak, pay attention, your programming, your beliefs, all of that, your habits and patterns, your emotions, right? The chemistry, your feelings.
Yep, your feelings, your frequency, what you're putting out there.
Yep.
Big time.
Right.
Pay attention to. Yeah.
And then the last one?
And the spiritual.
Yeah.
And that's getting in touch with yourself, your true self, which is, that's that conscious awareness. And it's really, really important to know who you are, because we can get very lost along the way. I know I used to be there too. So
yeah, it's true. So what we've talked about today, we invite questions and feedback. If there's subjects that you want us to address and to give some insights on, we welcome your input. You can email us at hazelandcarmen@gmail.com, and you can visit us on our website.
www.healingheartcenter.ca. And you can book an appointment with us, discovery sessions with us. You can see more about what we're about. And
Okay. So, thank you for being with us today. And until next time, be kind to yourself.
Thank you. See you.
Bye. Hello, I'm Hazel Butterworth, and this is Carmen Braga. We're the co-founders of Healing Heart Center here in Sherwood Park. And we're also the hosts of the Inspiration Station for Self-Awareness.
And you're watching TVU, and this is the Health and Wellness Channel.